The Bamboo Grove of Courage. Mithun lived in a world painted in green and gold. Green from the paddy fields that stretched to the horizon, and gold from the sun that warmed the terracotta tiles of his home. He loved his village, nestled in the heart of Kerala, with its scent of jasmine and cardamom that drifted on the evening breeze. But Mithun's own world was very small and quiet. While other boys climbed mango trees and played boisterous games of kabaddi, Mithun sat on his veranda with a charcoal pencil and a sketchbook, drawing the world he was too shy to join. He was afraid of scraped knees, of loud noises, and most of all, of the dozen pairs of eyes that might look at him if he made a mistake. One evening his Amma sat beside him. "Your drawings are beautiful, Monet," she said, her voice soft as silk. "But a bird cannot learn to fly only by drawing wings." She pointed towards a dense cluster of tall, whispering stalks at the edge of the village. "You will join the Gurukul's Kalaripayattu class. It is time you found the strength that is already inside you." The next morning, Mithun's heart beat like a trapped bird against his ribs. The bamboo grove was a cathedral of green shafts, sunlight filtering through the leaves in shifting patterns. In a clearing, on a floor of packed red earth, a dozen older boys moved with a fluid grace that seemed impossible. They were led by a man with a long white beard and eyes that seemed to hold the stillness of the entire grove. This was the Gurukul. He was not large, but he had a presence that made the air around him feel solid and calm. Mithun stood at the edge of the Kalari, the training ground, feeling small and clumsy. The Gurukul noticed him and beckoned him forward with a slight nod. "Welcome," he said, his voice a low rumble like distant thunder. "The first step is always the hardest. You have taken it." Mithun wasn't so sure. He felt like he had just stepped off a cliff. Mithun expected to be handed a wooden sword or a shield. Instead, the Gurukul's lessons began with the earth itself. He taught Mithun how to salute the ground he stood on, how to thank the sun for its light and the air for his breath. They practiced long, slow stretches that made Mithun's unused muscles ache. He learned to bend like the bamboo and stand firm like the banyan tree. Kalaripayattu is not about fighting, the Gurukul explained one day, gently correcting Mithun's posture. It is a conversation between your body and your spirit. You must learn to listen to both. He looked directly into Mithun's eyes. "Remember this, young one. True strength is not for showing off. The strongest tree is the one that gives the most shade. Real strength protects those who have none." The path to the village market and the school ran across a sturdy old stone bridge that arched over a gurgling stream. Recently, however, the bridge had been claimed by a troop of bold, gray-furred monkeys. They would perch on the parapets, chattering and screeching, and pelt anyone who dared to cross with mango pits and sticky jackfruit seeds. The younger children were terrified. They would gather at the edge of the stream, their small faces puckered with fear, sometimes turning back home in tears. Mithun watched them from a distance, hidden behind a sprawling banyan tree. He knew exactly how they felt. Their fear was a mirror of his own, a cold, heavy stone in his stomach. He wanted to help, but his own feet felt rooted to the spot, tangled in the weeds of his shyness. In the Kalari, the Gurukul laid a long, smooth bamboo pole on the ground. "The body follows the breath," he said. "A calm breath makes a steady body." The task was to walk from one end of the pole to the other. It looked simple, but the moment Mithun stepped onto it, his ankle would wobble and he'd stumble onto the soft earth. He fell again and again. "You are thinking of the fall," the Gurukul said, his voice patient. "Do not think. Just breathe. Inhale from your belly. Feel it fill you up. Exhale slowly. Feel your feet connect to the bamboo. Focus only on the feeling of balance, even if it is just for a second." Mithun closed his eyes, took a deep breath, and tried again. For a fleeting moment he felt it, a single point of perfect stillness. Mithun couldn't shake the image of the scared children. He decided to follow the stream, pushing his way through thickets of wild ginger and past curtains of hanging vines, hoping to find another crossing. As he rounded a bend, he saw a woman pushing a wooden cart laden with a rainbow of fruits. She had a kind, wrinkled face and a smile that made her eyes sparkle. "Lost, little one?" she asked. Her name was Leela, and she was the village fruit seller. Mithun, usually so quiet, found himself telling her about the monkeys and the bridge. Leela nodded knowingly. "Ah, that mischievous troop. But there is another way," she said, pointing a finger upstream. "An old path, very overgrown now. It leads to a set of strong stepping stones. Hardly anyone uses it anymore." "The monkeys are not mean, you know," Leela said, polishing a ripe mango on the edge of her sari. "They are just hungry, and that bridge is their territory now." An idea sparked in Mithun's mind, fanned by Leela's practical wisdom. It felt connected to the Gurukul's teachings, not to fight, but to understand. "What if," Mithun began slowly, "we gave them food somewhere else?" Leela's smile widened. A clever thought. Together they hatched a plan. Every morning, Leela would give Mithun the fruits that were too ripe to sell. He would take them and leave them in a small, sunny clearing deep in the woods, far away from the bridge and the old stepping stone path. It wasn't a challenge. It was an offering. The stepping stones were a much harder challenge than the bamboo pole. They were uneven and slick with moss. But Mithun remembered the Gurukul's words. He focused on his breath, finding his center with each slow inhale and exhale. He imagined his feet growing roots, connecting him to the stone. Soon he could cross the stream with a quiet confidence, his movements sure and steady. He spent 2 afternoons clearing the old path with a sickle borrowed from Leela, cutting back the tangled vines and sweeping away the dead leaves. From his hiding spot, he saw his plan was working. The monkeys, delighted with their daily feast, had abandoned the bridge and now spent their mornings squabbling happily in the distant clearing. The path was clear. The day of the village fair arrived in a riot of color and sound. The main path was thronged with people, the air thick with the smell of fried snacks and the music of the Nadaswaram. Near the stream, A small cluster of toddlers had become separated from their parents. They stood crying, too frightened by the crowd to go forward and too small to push through. Mithun saw them. The old Mithun would have hidden. The new Mithun took a deep, calming breath. He walked over to the children and knelt. "Don't be scared," he said, his voice soft but clear. "I know a secret way, a quiet path. Do you want me to show you?" One by one, he took their tiny hands in his, and with the patience of his Gurukal, he guided them across the stepping stones to the other side, where their anxious parents were waiting. Later that day, as the sun began to set, the Gurukul found Mithun in the now quiet bamboo grove. He had been watching from a distance. He didn't offer praise or congratulations, but his eyes shone with a deep, quiet pride that meant more than any words. He pressed a small, tightly rolled palm leaf manuscript, a thaliola, into Mithun's hand. It felt ancient and important. Mithun carefully unrolled it. Inked onto the dried leaf in elegant Malayalam script were two words, Arivu Sevanamanu. Mithun looked up at his master, a question in his eyes. The Gurukul smiled. "Skill is service," he translated. In that moment, standing in the green gold light of the grove, Mithun finally understood. The courage he had found was not a weapon to be worn like armor, but a lamp to be held out to light the way for others.